We're stopping predatory middlemen from hiking up prices on prescription drugs. We're capping the cost of insulin at $35. We're making long-term investments in clean energy and weatherization to keep utility costs down.
That's the voice of Her Excellency, Abigail Spanbeger. She has a press conference yesterday reflecting on her first 100 days in office as the governor of Virginia. We'll discuss that with a member of the House of Delegates. Tom Garrett joins us on Tuesdays to, kick around what's going on between his ears. Tom Garrett, our guest here on News Radio WRVA. Good morning, sir.
Oh my gosh! Good morning. Did Governor Spanbeger claim credit for successes that other people had again yesterday, or what? Why didn't I miss that one?
Well, she talked about that insulin's being capped at $35, which Joe Biden claimed that he had capped it at $35. Then she talked about the billions that have come in, that she signed the final paperwork for things like the Eli Lilly deal. And the rest saying, this is the billions of dollars that we brought into the Commonwealth of Virginia.
Well, at least she gave credit to Governor Youngkin and the local elected officials in Goochland County for all the work they did the last 3 years to bring Eli Lilly in, right?
I don't know, because I didn't hear that part, right?
I missed that part too. I mean, to tell you, dude, it's it's a good thing Republicans are so productive when they have some of the levers of power, because if they weren't, Democrats wouldn't have any successes to claim.
All right. Give me your thoughts. Her first 100 days in office. She's got some things passed. Is there one thing that she's come aboard that got passed that Tom Garrett, the most red of Republicans, could say, you know what, that's not bad?
Yeah, they had a bill, and a lot of my colleagues disagree with me, but the Farm Bureau agree with me. They had a bill that would allow localities to mandate solar canopies over parking lots over a certain size. Follow the bouncing ball here, Rich. Now, I represent rural Virginia, where we're being bled dry by the greed of Loudoun County and the data centers. These people have already reaped the windfall of billions upon billions of dollars, no hyperbole. And so I voted for it, and here's why. When Arlington, Alexandria, and Fairfax start demanding that every job creator who comes into their locality build a solar canopy over their parking lot, what's going to happen to economic development, jobs, and opportunity? It's going to migrate to places that aren't bat crap crazy, right?
Okay.
So there's another one, right? Jessica Anderson had a bill that would decriminalize falsifying your child's address to put your child in a different school system. Now,
to
right?
decriminalize this?
Yeah, it would decriminalize it, because they want to decriminalize everything except for whatever is the crime du jour, mostly thought crimes these days. Now, here's the upside of that. And I actually asked Anderson if she'd let me co-patron the bill, and she said no. If I am a parent and I love my children, and they're in, say, I don't know, Richmond City schools where they spend $2 for every one spent in Hanover and still don't do any services to our child as it relates to teaching them to do things like, I don't know, read, write, do maths. Sorry, you just got back from the British Isles. So I thought I'd say math.
Ciphering arithmetic.
Yes, but since those schools suck so badly, I don't blame a parent who's trapped by virtue of a zip code in a failing school system for trying to do right by their kids. So if the Democrats want to decriminalize it, I call it backdoor school choice. My first obligation, my first responsibility is to create the greatest chance that I'll have a happy, healthy, well-adjusted child. And frankly, tragically, Democrat-run school systems in areas that have been controlled by Democrats for no crap 50, 60 years are failing our children. So, hey, if you want to decriminalize a parent sneaking their kid into a school system that's not as bad, I kind of get it. Ultimately, we got John Thune debating the merits of a filibuster and not passing the Save America Act, while Democrats try, it seems, every 3 months to murder the president and his administration. So I think there's a time for passive or for civil disobedience. I think they've started passing laws that I simply won't follow, and I never thought those words would cross my lips. So they've now enabled us to get our kids out of the failing school systems, the indoctrination mills that they've created, by saying, well, maybe it should be a civil penalty instead of a class 4 misdemeanor. I'm all in. right? If I was raising kids in the city of Richmond and I couldn't afford to move to Goochland or Hanover or someplace where my kids weren't being indoctrinated with garbage, I would do it. But if I can't do that, maybe I can save my kids by getting them into a different school system, since the Democrats want to decriminalize everything.
I can't go there with you because, again, that's just a Band-Aid. I get it, and it's very interesting because I imagine you probably made somebody's head explode when you said, well, I'll support that, because basically what you're telling us is we need school choice from these failing schools. But it's just a Band-Aid to fix what should be fixed. Is send your kid to a good school.
Right. If we want to save our public schools, the best way to do that is to create competition, because where there's competition, there's an incentive to improve.
Right.
Where there's a monopoly, there's a disincentive to improve. And the teachers' unions, and my grandfathers were both very proud union men, one in the steel industry and one in the railroads, very proud union men. But they killed the goose that laid the golden egg. The teachers' unions do not protect competent, good teachers. Instead, they protect Cole Allen, right? Idiots, indoctrinated drones, and that sort of thing, right? Good teachers don't need unions. If we had competition and free markets, there'd be a bidding war for that wonderful government teacher that changed her life.
Let's move on. The next, I want to play you a little comment that she had. Here is the governor talking about wanting to bring people together. I want to get your reaction. Go ahead.
I'm focusing on things that we can all come together to work on, things like improving our schools, supporting our first responders, and making sure good paying jobs are available in every corner of our Commonwealth. When we work together, Virginia succeeds. When we focus on getting things done, it is good for Virginians. And that is why I'm focusing on things that we can all come together to work on.
Reaction.
Yeah, cue the cut of Inigo Montoya saying, I do not think that means what you think that it means. For the last 2 years, since I've been back in the General Assembly, I think I've carried 8 different bills to support volunteer fire and rescue in rural areas, right? Volunteer fire departments are really the beating heart of our rural communities. And the Democrats have killed them on party line votes every single time. We're talking about things like a $200 tax incentive on your vehicle registration because you're willing to volunteer hundreds of hours a year as a volunteer firefighter or rescue squad member. No, we need that tax revenue, right? So what she, I think, is saying is, I support firefighters unions and increased salaries for professional firefighters. I support creating so many training standards and regulations that the volunteer community is essentially squashed, because that's what's been happening for decades in fire and rescue. And we can replace those with more government employees who will have a fealty to the state. Right. So, again, I say, I got the bills. If that's what you mean, then come and support these, because these are things that'll keep our communities supporting our communities. Our first responders will continue to be our neighbors.
But hold on a second.
People who move down from Maryland because they get a cushier benefits package in Northern Virginia.
I want to interrupt you here for a second, because I kind of feel like Charlie Brown with the football. She says she wants to reach across the aisle, work with Republicans. Okay, let's go do it. And then later in the press conference, she talks about the importance of the Supreme Court staying out of or ruling in the favor of the gerrymandering. It's kind of hard. It's kind of hard to listen to. Hey, I want to work together, but I also want to disenfranchise and not have any Republicans except for one in Southwest Virginia represent us. I kind of feel like Charlie Brown in the football.
Well, I mean, there's this sort of cognitive dissonance that's, I think, at some level willful on the left, right? Where if someone on the right says, "Hey, these are the targeted races," they go, "Oh, political violence." And when Hakeem Jeffries says we need maximum warfare against Republicans, they turn a blind eye, right? It's dangerous. And I could do this all day as it relates to examples of people on the left, Hassan Piker saying, "Let the streets run red with their capitalist blood," and then Democrat candidates for federal office begging him for an endorsement, right? I mean, it's really bad. And so I think Governor Spanbeger, and I'll tell you this as an aside, when I was in federal office, whenever I met somebody from the State Department who I thought was pretty cool, I knew they actually worked for the CIA. But we should never elect anyone with a CIA pedigree to elected office ever. Her job was to learn how to do things like color revolutions, how to do things like overthrow governments, how to do things like manipulate populations vis-a-vis planting selective information via selective venues to generate outcomes. I mean, that was her job. That's what they do. And that person, particularly in the executive branch, is a scary entity to have around. God bless the people who serve in the CIA. They don't need to be in the executive branch of government. It's kind of like,
but I do want to be fair. And we're talking to Tom Garrett. I do want to be fair. So there was an interesting op-ed in the Richmond Times-Dispatch that a CIA case officer, veteran of the CIA, had written while I was in Ireland, and I read it when I was over there. I've actually reached out to him to ask him to come on the program and go in more detail on that, because I don't understand tradecraft enough. I just see things that don't add up, but I'm going to try to put that together for our audience. So I'm working hard to try to find people to come on to address this, because we do hear that from a lot of people. I just want to make sure I have enough information that we know what we're talking about.
Well, the game is to get people to do what you want them to do without having them know that you got them to do it, right? And we're at a point in America right now. Like, if Donald Trump was a pedophile, don't you think that the party that impeached him 2 or 3 times, leveled a bunch of criminal charges against him without any merit? Don't you think that the party that imprisoned hundreds of people for literally thousands of years, including solitary confinement on trespassing charges, might have done something about it when they controlled all 3 branches of government federally? I mean, you literally have to unplug your brain to believe some of the sort of conspiracy theories. Delegate Jessica Anderson tweeting out that, of course, Donald Trump didn't flinch when there were gunshots at the Correspondents' Dinner because he was in on the game. I mean, I guess by that logic that Cole Allen was like, hey, I'll act like I don't like you and then spend the rest of my life in prison because I want to get you a ballroom. I mean, that's how stupid this is. And I feel badly because there are people who I love, people who are dear to me, who I think are caught up in some of these lies. There's a story when I was in Congress. I was in a classified briefing, and I got permission to say this part because I didn't want to go to jail, where I asked the then FBI director if there was collusion on the part, not collusion, but work on the part of the Russians and the Chinese, who make the Russians look like pikers, by the way, to influence the American election. His answer was yes. I said, was it in favor of President, this is 2016, in favor of President Trump, or was it in favor of candidate Clinton? He said both. And I said, so the game was not to influence the election, but instead to turn the American populace against itself.
Each other,
and he
right.
said, absolutely,
Yeah.
right? Because they can't take us down externally. And so the game is to take us down internally, and they build the foundation of this on lies. Abigail Spanbeger is an accomplished liar. I'm sorry, but it's true. And a claimer of credit for things for which she deserves no credit. And then we get at each other's throats when we really should be concerned with why the city of Richmond's public schools are failing our children. That might ought to be what we're worried about. Instead, it's, Jimmy Kimmel doesn't like Donald Trump, and neither do my friends. And since I want to fit in like a lemming, I will agree to whatever claptrap they're putting forth. Right? This is dangerous, and it's built on lies and hatred, and it's designed to pit us one against the other. And I'm not going to shrink from that which I know is true. But what I try to do, and it's hard sometimes, Governor Spanberger, is attack ideas and not people, right?
Yes.
Because the ideas are broken. And if we can have a fair discussion, right? Our education system fails our children too, because we teach rote memorization. We do not teach critical thinking and analysis, right? The first question is always easy. Should everyone have access to affordable health care? Why, yes. Okay, define health care. Does that include genital mutilation? Does that include weight loss procedures? Who pays? To what extent do they pay? Is this administered publicly, or is this administered through the private sector, right? These are the questions that really get us down into how we make positive change. Meanwhile, Rahm Emanuel, Democrat, advisor to President Clinton and President Obama, I believe, is running for president. And his most famous quote ever is, never let a good crisis go to waste. These aren't the people that we want running our nation.
100%. 100%. Again, is if we just stop getting in each other's throats, maybe we get something done. Tom Garrett, thank you so much.
People like you'd want to be treated and tell the truth, Rich. There it is.
Show a little bit of
Delegate
grace.
Tom Garrett on Facebook. If you're not following Delegate Tom Garrett on Facebook, you're doing it wrong, Rich.
I will tell everybody, follow you on Facebook. All right, I'll talk to you next week.
God bless you, my friend.
All right, thanks. Tom Garrett joining us here, Delegate, member of the House of Delegates.